Blood trickled down Marcus Reid's face as he stared at the gun pointed directly at his chest. "You have exactly 5 seconds to transfer $50 million to this account, or your fiancée dies first, then you." The masked intruder's voice was ice-cold in the luxurious penthouse that had, just moments ago, been filled with laughter. Sophia, bound to a chair beside him, caught his gaze with terror-filled eyes. The billionaire's mind raced. How had the stranger known about the offshore accounts? Who had betrayed them? And why did the voice sound so hauntingly familiar? Marcus had built his tech empire from nothing, surviving corporate sabotage and economic collapse. But nothing had prepared him for this moment when everything he valued hung by a thread. His engagement to Sophia, the brilliant neuroscientist who'd captured his heart 6 months ago, had been his redemption from a cold, lonely existence. Now, as the masked figure circled them, Marcus realized with sickening clarity that the person knew details only an insider could know. Someone close had orchestrated this. "Tick-tock, Mr. Reid," the intruder taunted, pressing the gun to Sophia's temple. "Is your money worth more than the woman you claim to love?" Sophia's eyes flashed not just with fear, but with something else, a signal Marcus couldn't decipher. The billionaire's finger hovered over his phone, accessing hidden accounts. This was the price of success he'd never wanted to pay. If you're feeling the tension of this moment, hit that like button and comment what you would do in Marcus's impossible situation. 3 days earlier, Marcus had been on top of the world. His company's breakthrough quantum security algorithm had doubled Reiditech's stock overnight, making headlines across the globe. He'd celebrated by surprising Sophia with a weekend at his private island retreat. Under a canopy of stars, champagne in hand, they'd laughed about their unlikely romance, the ruthless tech mogul and the idealistic scientist. "To think you almost refused to meet me," Marcus teased, his fingers tracing her jawline. "Admit it, you thought I'd be an insufferable egomaniac." Sophia's smile lit up the night. "You, an insufferable egomaniac?" she replied, leaning into his touch. "Just with surprisingly good taste in women." "The best taste?" he murmured against her lips. "Though I'm still not convinced you're not after my algorithms rather than my heart." "Your algorithms are impressive," she whispered back. "But your heart is the real breakthrough." They kissed under the moonlight, unaware of the camera lens, capturing every intimate moment from the shadows of the palm trees. It had been their 3rd date when Sophia first cracked through Marcus's carefully constructed facade. They'd been arguing about the ethics of AI development over dinner at an obscure bistro he'd chosen for privacy. You can't just optimize for profit when you're creating technology that could reshape humanity. Sophia had insisted, her passion evident in every word. The market decides what matters. Marcus countered automatically, the response practiced from countless interviews. "Is that Marcus Reid speaking, or his PR team?" she'd challenged, eyes alight with intelligence that both attracted and unnerved him. He'd paused, set down his glass, and for the first time in years spoke without calculating the impact of his words. "Sometimes I don't know the difference anymore." That vulnerable admission had changed everything between them. Later that night, walking along the waterfront, he'd told her things he'd never shared with anyone, about the crushing pressure of maintaining his image, about the loneliness at the top. She'd listened without judgment, her hand warm in his, and Marcus had felt something long dormant awakening inside him, hope. Marcus hadn't noticed the figure watching them that night. He hadn't noticed the same presence at the charity gala the following evening or during their private lunch at the exclusive rooftop restaurant. It wasn't until they were back in his penthouse, when Sophia had thrown her head back in laughter at his impression of his stuffy board members, that Marcus spotted the reflection in the window, a face he recognized instantly. A face that had no reason to be 70 floors up, staring through his window. Marcus, Sophia had asked, noticing his sudden pallor. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a—" The explosion had cut off her words, shattering the floor to ceiling windows. What followed was chaos, leaving them now at the mercy of their captor. 30 seconds left. The masked figure announced, pulling Marcus back to the present crisis. "Perhaps I should demonstrate my seriousness." The intruder pulled out a knife, tracing it along Sophia's collarbone. "You always did like collecting beautiful things, didn't you, Marcus? Things that didn't belong to you." Something in the phrasing made Marcus pause. He studied the intruder's eyes, the only visible part of their face, and recognition dawned. "Eliza," he whispered. The intruder froze, then slowly removed the mask. Eliza Brennan's face emerged, her features hardened by hatred. "Hello, brother." Sophia gasped. Marcus had never mentioned having a sister. If this twist has you shocked, drop a comment with your prediction about what happens next. Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling stories like this one. "You're supposed to be dead," Marcus said, his voice hollow. "And you're supposed to be in prison." Eliza shot back. Funny how neither of those things happened. She turned to Sophia. "Did he tell you about me? About what he did to secure his first investment? About whose idea Raditech really was?" Sophia looked between them, confusion evident in her eyes. "He didn't just steal my technology," Eliza continued, her gun still trained on Marcus. "He framed me for corporate espionage when I threatened to expose him. I lost everything, my reputation, my future, my fiancée. I had to disappear and rebuild my entire life while watching you take credit for my work." "It wasn't like that," Marcus protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "The algorithm needed refinement." "My algorithm?" Eliza shouted. "My life's work, and now your precious quantum security system. It's just an evolution of my original design. You're still profiting from my ideas." Sophia's expression shifted from confusion to dawning horror. "Marcus, is this true?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Marcus Reid, celebrated as a visionary genius, couldn't meet either woman's eyes. "I didn't come for money," Eliza said, lowering the gun slightly. "I came for justice. Tomorrow I release everything, documentation proving you stole my work, evidence of your offshore accounts where you've been hiding company funds, and testimony from your former partners about how you systematically eliminated competition." For 10 years, Eliza had lived in shadows. After fleeing the scandal that destroyed her reputation, she'd changed her name and appearance, moving to a small tech hub in Southeast Asia. There, working under an alias, she'd slowly rebuilt her skills and connections, all while tracking her brother's meteoric rise. "Do you know what it's like?" she continued, voice trembling with suppressed rage. "To read articles praising your brilliance for ideas you stole from me. To watch you accept awards for my innovations while I coded in obscurity, working 16-hour days just to survive." Her gun hand shook slightly. 3 years ago, I found a vulnerability in your security system, a flaw so fundamental only the original architect would recognize it. That's when I knew for certain you were still using my framework. That's when I began planning. She'd infiltrated Raditech through a series of shell companies, placing operatives in key positions. Patient as a spider, she'd gathered evidence, building an irrefutable case while moving closer to Marcus's inner circle. The worst part, Eliza's voice broke slightly. "I saw how you changed with her." She nodded toward Sophia. "I watched you become the person I always hoped you could be, honest, vulnerable, capable of real connection. But never with me. Never for me." Marcus lunged forward, desperation overriding caution. The gunshot echoed through the penthouse. Blood bloomed across his shoulder as he fell back, Sophia screaming his name. The wound wasn't fatal, but the message was clear. Eliza wouldn't hesitate next time. This shocking confrontation is just beginning. Hit that like button if you're on the edge of your seat and want to see what happens next. I was never going to kill you, Eliza said, her voice steadier now. "Death would be too easy. I want you to live through what's coming, the investigations, the trials, watching everything you built crumble, knowing it was never truly yours to begin with." Sophia, despite still being bound, leaned toward Marcus. "All this time, I thought I knew you." "You don't understand," Marcus pleaded, pressing his hand against his bleeding shoulder. "I was desperate back then. Our parents had just died, leaving us with nothing but debt. Eliza's ideas were brilliant, but she wanted to develop them slowly, ethically. We were about to lose everything, so you stole my work and pushed me out." Eliza finished. "Then when I threatened to expose you, you destroyed my reputation so thoroughly that no one would believe me." "I never meant for it to go that far," Marcus whispered. "I thought you'd fight back, not disappear. I've spent the last decade looking for you." "To silence me permanently?" Eliza asked bitterly. "To apologize?" Marcus answered. To make things right, Sophia had been quietly working at her restraints during their exchange. Now she spoke up. If you wanted to make things right, you had 10 years to do it. Instead, you built an empire on lies. The betrayal in her eyes cut deeper than his bullet wound. Marcus realized he was losing not just his company and reputation, but the only person who had made him feel worthy of redemption. Eliza stepped back, seemingly thrown by Marcus's claim of remorse. "Tomorrow at noon, the evidence goes public unless—" "Unless what?" Marcus asked, desperation evident. "Unless you confess everything yourself, return control of Riditech to me where it belongs, and face the consequences of your actions." Eliza's ultimatum hung in the air. "You have until morning to decide." With those words, she retreated toward the shattered windows where a helicopter waited, leaving Marcus bleeding both literally and figuratively as his carefully constructed life began to unravel. After Eliza's departure, Sophia freed herself from her loosened restraints and reluctantly tended to Marcus's wound. The silence between them was deafening. "Why?" she finally asked, applying pressure to his shoulder. "You already had success, recognition, wealth beyond imagination. Why continue the lie?" Marcus winced as much from her question as from the pain. "Because the lie became who I was. I couldn't separate myself from it anymore." He caught her hand. "But meeting you, loving you, made me want to be better. I was going to tell you everything after the wedding." "Were you?" Sophia challenged, pulling away. Or would there always be another reason to wait? Another justification? If you're wondering what Sophia will do next, subscribe now and hit the notification bell to find out how this intense confrontation resolves. As midnight approached, Marcus sat alone in his study, photographs spread before him. Images of Eliza and him as children, before ambition had corrupted their bond. In one, they huddled over a makeshift circuit board, 14 and 16 years old, their eyes bright with the thrill of creation. He traced his sister's smiling face with a trembling finger. The night his parents died, a senseless car accident returning from his college graduation had shattered more than their family. It had broken something fundamental inside Marcus, replacing it with a desperate, gnawing fear of poverty and irrelevance. When Eliza's brilliant algorithm had shown promise but needed years of development, that fear had overwhelmed his conscience. He'd stolen not just her work, but her chance to become who she was meant to be. "I told myself I was protecting us both," he whispered to the empty room, "that I'd make it up to her once we were stable." The rationalization sounded hollow now, even to his own ears. His phone buzzed with messages from his crisis management team, offering strategies to discredit Eliza, legal maneuvers to buy time, PR campaigns to salvage his reputation. A younger Marcus would have embraced these lifelines without hesitation. Now they turned his stomach. Dawn broke over the city, painting the damaged penthouse in golden light. Marcus had spent the night alternating between calls to his lawyers and desperate attempts to explain himself to Sophia. She'd listened in stony silence, her engagement ring placed deliberately on the coffee table between them. "I have until noon," Marcus said finally. "Tell me what to do, Sophia. I'll do anything to fix this, to fix us." "It's not for me to decide," she replied. "For the first time in your life, you need to make a choice that isn't about what you want or what you can get away with. It needs to be about what's right." Marcus looked out at the city he'd conquered, the skyline dotted with buildings bearing his name, the empire built on a foundation of deception. "I don't know if I can give it all up." "Then you never deserved it in the first place," Sophia said softly. She stood gathering her coat. "And you never deserved me either." As she walked to the door, Marcus made his decision. "Wait," he called. "I'll do it. I'll confess everything." Sophia turned. "Why now?" "Because you're cornered. Because you might lose me. Because for the first time in my life, I'm more afraid of who I've become than what I might lose," he admitted. The words felt foreign on his tongue, the truth after so many years of lies. At precisely noon, Marcus Reid stood before a hastily assembled press conference, Eliza at his side. Cameras flashed as he began to speak, confessing to the theft of his sister's intellectual property, the subsequent cover-up, and the years of fraud that followed. With each admission, the weight he'd carried for a decade seemed to lighten, even as Reiditech stock plummeted in real time on the screens behind him. "I built my reputation by standing on my sister's shoulders and then pushing her into the shadows," he concluded. "Today, I'm stepping down as CEO and transferring all patents and controlling interest to their rightful owner, Eliza Brennan. I'll be cooperating fully with the inevitable investigations and accept whatever consequences come." The room erupted in chaos as reporters shouted questions. Marcus ignored them, his eyes searching the crowd until he found what he was looking for, Sophia standing at the back, her expression unreadable. In the months that followed, Marcus faced the justice system's full force. His empire crumbled, his fortune diminished by lawsuits and penalties. Yet, surprisingly, he found something like peace in the process. Eliza, after the initial vindication, found herself struggling with the burden of suddenly running a multinational corporation in crisis. One rainy afternoon, she visited Marcus at his considerably more modest apartment. "The board wants to bring you back as an advisor," she said without preamble. "Not CEO, but they value your market intuition." Marcus looked up from the programming code on his laptop, his first original work in years. "And what do you want?" Eliza hesitated. "I want my brother back, the one who used to stay up all night with me solving problems before ambition poisoned everything." It was the first step in a long, difficult reconciliation, one that would require years of rebuilding trust, but had begun with truth. As for Sophia, she had disappeared from Marcus's life after the press conference, returning to her research and declining all his attempts at contact. Until one day, 6 months after his confession, when she appeared at his door. "I saw your new patent application," she said. "An algorithm to detect early onset Alzheimer's from speech patterns. Your own work this time?" Marcus nodded. "No shortcuts, no stolen ideas. It's not worth billions, but it might actually help people." Sophia studied him, searching for something in his face. "The man I fell in love with might have been built on lies, but perhaps there was truth in there somewhere after all." She didn't offer forgiveness or promises, just possibility. "Coffee sometime?" It wasn't a happy ending, not yet. But as they stood in the doorway, it was something more valuable, a beginning based on truth. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe! Let me know in the comments if you believe people can truly change after terrible mistakes. The transformation of Marcus Reid continued beyond that doorway moment. The coffee date with Sophia stretched into dinner, where they talked with a new honesty that had been impossible before. "I keep expecting you to hate me," Marcus confessed over dessert. "Most people do now." "I did hate you," Sophia replied, her candor both painful and refreshing. "For weeks I was furious. But hatred consumes the person feeling it more than its target." She set down her fork. "What fascinated me was watching you accept the consequences without fighting back. The old Marcus would have hired an army of lawyers and PR specialists." The old Marcus was exhausted, he admitted. Living inside a lie is like carrying a weight that gets heavier every day. Their reconnection proceeded cautiously, built on small truths rather than grand gestures. Sophia insisted they attend therapy, both individually and together, before considering a romantic future. Marcus agreed without hesitation. Meanwhile, Eliza faced her own challenges. The spotlight she'd craved became increasingly uncomfortable as Raditech's new CEO. At a board meeting where Marcus served as consultant, she'd finally broken down. "They keep comparing me to you," she admitted afterward in the privacy of her office. "Everything I do is measured against the Marcus Reid standard. The irony is suffocating. They'll stop eventually." Marcus assured her, "Your vision for the company is clearer than mine ever was. More sustainable." The siblings established a tentative ritual of Sunday dinners, awkward at first, but gradually evolving into something healing for them both. They spoke of their parents, of childhood memories long suppressed, and slowly of dreams for the future. 2 years after the confession that had changed everything, Marcus stood in a small laboratory space he'd funded through a modest venture fund. Researchers worked on developing his Alzheimer's detection algorithm into a practical medical tool. The project wouldn't make anyone rich, but it might make thousands of lives better. When Sophia joined him there one evening, sliding her hand into his, he realized something profound had shifted inside him. Success now meant something entirely different than it had before. "Your sister called," Sophia said. The partnership with the Medical Ethics Board was approved. They'll be implementing the Transparency Protocols Company wide next quarter. Marcus smiled, genuine pride replacing the hollow achievement he'd once chased. "She always did have the better vision between us." That night, under a sky full of stars not unlike the one where they'd first connected, Marcus asked Sophia a question, not with a diamond ring this time, but with humble certainty. "I've spent 2 years becoming someone worthy of asking this," he said. "Will you build a life with me? Not the one I promised before, no private islands or penthouses. Just something real, built on truth." Sophia's answer came not in words, but in the way she drew him close, her kiss both an acceptance and a promise of her own. In the end, Marcus Reid learned that true wealth wasn't measured in billions or buildings with his name. It was found in the harder path of redemption, in creating something authentic rather than stealing someone else's light. His journey from celebrated fraud to humbled truth teller would be neither quick nor easy, but for the first time he was building something that could last, a life of integrity. And perhaps, if he was fortunate, a second chance at love with the woman who had seen the worst in him and still believed the best might exist. If you found inspiration in this story of redemption and second chances, please hit that subscribe button and share with someone who might need to hear that transformation is possible, even after our darkest mistakes. Your support helps me continue creating stories that touch hearts and change lives.